This is a quick video to show you how to use some of your batting scraps and some scrap fabric to make some fun little zippered bags on your long arm. So I have loaded some junk backing, just some fabric I didn't care about, on the long arm to use as a backing. And I've placed some batting on top of that and some fabric cut to the sizes that are included in a table with the patterns for these box bags that you get. And so it tells you how big to cut the fabric, and I've basted the fabric down and then created these boundaries to show where the fabric is on my table. I've brought in some patterns that I want to use and have used the multiply tool in edge to edge to build them up to the size I want to place on the bag. So I'm going to make a little sewing bag and a little knitting bag. And so I will be using the pattern for the bag as a mask with the pattern. So it'll sew an outline of that and the pattern on the inside. So I'm going to bring this up, and it covers the fabric that I want to use. You can resize it a little bit if you want to. I don't think we need to cut too much of this away. And what I'm going to do first is choose the line of the bag pattern and the mask feature, and I want to build that into a mask. It turns purple, and then I touch it again on that, it turns pink, and then I select the pattern that I want to use for that mask, and I want to make sure I'm trimming away the outside, and I want to sew the mask outline, so I'll say accept. And so that's ready to stitch out, and let's repeat that with this other mask. So again, go to the mask outline, say build. Oh, I have to put the pattern in place first. So bring these over, and I can go ahead and resize those a little bit so I don't have to trim away too much. And you actually wouldn't have to use the trim function at all. Let's not on this one. I'll just let it stitch the outline of the pattern, and then I'll use that as my cutting line when I'm ready to cut these. So I'm going to go ahead and let these stitch out, and I'll come back and show you the next step. The way these bags are designed, the big part here in the center is the bottom of the bag. Here is the side, this is the side, and then these are the top. And so if you want to do like a monogram on here, keeping in mind that the zippers are going to go along this edge, this is the top of the bag, you could go ahead and bring something in, and I'm going to rotate this clockwise, and as long as it fits in this area where this cutout is, then it will work as a monogram. So I've done this on a couple of bags and then filled it in with a marker, and it turned out really cute. So I'm ready to stitch the second one, so I'm going to start that up next. These have finished stitching, so now I'm going to do some little welt pockets that are kind of cute on this one bag. When I have my knitting in a bag, I like the yarn on the inside and markers or any other needles and stuff in some zippered bag or some welt zippered pockets on the outside. And so there are the files for that are included in the package of these boxes. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove the knitting ones. Oops. See if I can just select that. It doesn't look like it's going to let me, but you want to bring this in, and if you position it in the upper right corner, use your arrows. Those little welts will be in the places that you want, but I am going to take out the lines that attach them to each other. So I'm going to use my split tool and come in here and click here, accept, here, oh, get a little box there, and then down here, split it here. And that way I can then remove the traveling lines. I don't need those, I just use them for placement. So we'll remove this one too. And I'm going to, there's directions on how big to cut these, but basically it will fit in this space, this fabric, and you'll need 4 pieces of them cut to that size, and you'll lay them in place in that area, and then we're going to let this stitch. I've taken this off my table and cut the pieces apart, and have laid this on my cutting board with the right side down to the board, and have cut another piece of fabric that I'm going to use for the lining, and we'll place that on the back of the backing basically, and I'm going to pin it in place away from the cutting lines, and then go ahead and cut both of them out at the same time. On one of the ends, I'm going to leave a extra quarter inch in the middle of the zippered bag where it's going to attach to the zippers, and I'll build this into the file so you don't have to worry about it. You'll just cut on the line, and this will make it a little bit easier to finish the bag at the very end. You'll see why later. Next, you're going to cut down the middle of that rectangle that is going to make up the well zippered pocket, and stop about an inch from each end and cut a really long triangle that you can, it'll help you in turning this pocket. So don't go all the way to like a quarter inch from the edge, leave it an inch long triangle. Make sure when you make your cuts that you don't cut through your stitching line. You're going to cut right up to it, and when you're done with that, you're going to flip all that fabric to the back side of the hole that you've created in the fabric, and so you'll just kind of shove it all inside there. You'll kind of tug at this fabric to flatten it down and get a nice sharp edge to it, and then I pin it in place, and after that I go ahead and top stitch it from the right side to stabilize it in preparation for the zipper. This is what the back side looks like after it's been top stitched. We have these fun zipper assortments on our website where you get 6 yards of tape and 25 little tabs, and you can mix and match. And you want to start by just kind of opening the tape a little bit, and on the zipper tab you can see where there's this little dividing part that's on the rounded end, and you'll sort of feed that zipper tape into that end of the zipper tab, and then I hold it with my fingers on a table and give it a quick yank, and that will put the zipper in place. And then you pull it to the opposite end of the zipper tape and pry it open, and your zipper's prepared to put in place in your bag. The measurements for all the zippers will be given in that table that comes with the file as well. And once I have all my zipper tabs in place on my zippers, then I go ahead and sew each end of the zipper just to stabilize it, to make sure I don't accidentally yank that tab off later. I go ahead and pin the zippers in place and then top stitch them down with my machine using my regular foot. I don't use a zipper foot, and just push the tab out of the way as you get to it with machine. Here's the zippers completed. When you're done with that, you'll turn it to the back and just cut off any excess zipper. And then you're going to take the extra 2 lining pieces for the pocket and lay them on top of the ones that are stitched in place, and stitch all around the 4 sides of those, just catching the lining fabrics together. It doesn't have to be real accurate, but this will create the little pockets on the side of the bag. Next, you're going to take your zipper for the long edge and lay it down right side to the right side of the bag. I leave the zipper open a little bit and clip it in place, and then fold your lining over it, place the lining on top, and clip it as well. So you'll be sewing through the 3 layers, the front of the bag, the lining, and the zipper, and just do a 1/4 inch seam down that whole length. Next, just press your fabrics, your lining and your outer bag fabric, and then top stitch down the edge of it. Next, you're going to fold your fabrics to the other side of the zipper. So you'll fold the outer lining on itself and then the inner lining on itself, and line it up with that other edge of the zipper tape. And go ahead and stitch that, but stop where the area is cut beyond the edge of the fabric. We're going to leave that as an opening to turn everything. Next, I sort of pin the fabrics and top stitch as far as you can, close to the opening that you left on both sides. You just have to kind of shove all the fabric out of the way just to get those 2 areas. Now you'll turn the whole bag inside out at this opening, and it will look like this when you flatten it back out. Stitch across the end of the zipper even with the edges of the fabric, just to hold those zipper edges together for the next couple of steps. And then you have 4 sets of fabric. You have the 2 pink on the upper left, the 2 pink on the upper right, and then the outside fabric on the lower left and the lower right. And you're going to be sewing those from the outer edge towards the zipper, stopping at the zipper, sewing those together with a 1/4 inch seam. I've done the 2 pink sets here as 2 separate seams, and now I'm preparing to do the outer fabric. So I've got them pinned, and again you're going to just start at the outer edge and work towards the center, stopping at the zipper. For the tabs, you can do just 1 or 2 of these. I take a 2-inch piece of fabric by about 3 inches, fold it in half lengthwise, and then fold each of the sides in and press it, and we'll be making a tab for the end of the box. Top stitch down the side, both sides of that tab. You'd probably want to use a matching thread, but I used the white just so you can see it here. You're going to fold that tab in half and then tuck it into the sandwich in between the 2 right sides of the fabric on top of the zipper, and you'll align all the raw edges and then go ahead and finish stitching over that zipper. These particular zippers are nylon, so you can stitch right over them. You don't have to stop, but if you're using a metal zipper, make sure that you kind of hand walk your machine so you don't hit the metal. Go ahead and just trim off that excess zipper after you get that stitched. Repeat all these steps on the opposite end of the bag, so you'll have all of those 8 corners or 8 edges stitched up at this point. For each of these box corners, you're going to open up the fabrics and center the seam along the opposite edge of the fabric. This is what makes your edges of your box. Go ahead and secure that with some clips. And it doesn't really matter what direction the seams go at this point. It's all going to be hidden inside the bag, so you don't need to worry about it. But you're going to pin that, and you have to kind of manipulate the rest of the bag to get that to lay flat like you want it. And then pull everything else away so you don't stitch through something else by mistake, and then sew this with a 1/4 inch seam. You're going to repeat that with all 8 of those little box openings. Just stitch them one at a time, and the bag will end up kind of looking like this. Now you're going to reach in that opening that's created in the zipper and just turn the whole bag inside out. So just kind of work it slowly, and at the end you'll see that we're almost there. We use this Quilter's Choice basting glue all the time. It's great. It dissolves really easily with water. And because I don't want that lining to shift around when I'm top stitching, I put a couple of drops of it between the fabric, fold the fabric and put it between the zipper and that fabric. And then you'll want to go ahead and iron it dry, and it will hold that in place so you don't get any tucks in it as you top stitch the top edge. Then take it to your machine, just top stitch the rest after you pin the outer parts folded, and you have a finished bag.